Hello, everyone. Today we're going to dive into the wonderful world of Gantt charts. A little bit of maybe on the boring side for some of you, but really, this is going to help you out a lot in terms of planning in the future. In fact, I've known companies who my students have gone on to interview with and actually got jobs from who wanted this. They were either impressed that we did it, or they were telling people, I want to know somebody who can plan out the work and using a Gantt chart or something like that. There are Gantt chart makers out there, but I think they almost all cost money. In our class, you'll be able to do these either by hand and scan them into me, or you can use Excel or something like that and kind of make a dirty Gantt chart. By dirty, I don't mean it's bad. It's just not what Excel was set up to do. It's just, but it can be programmed to do. So what is a Gantt chart? Well, basically what you do is you come up with a list of things that you have to get done in order to make things work. So in other words, if I'm going to plan out my day, I'm going to have to make breakfast, make lunch, and make dinner. Let's say that's all I'm going to do today. Those would actually take up 3 rows on a Gantt chart. So if you see this Gantt chart, it has a whole bunch of rows, but on the make breakfast, make lunch, and make dinner, that would take up 3 lines. And then I'd go across to some type of timeline. And if so, early morning might be here, mid-afternoon is here, and then evening is here. And I'd have to kind of block off the time that it would take to make those 3 meals. This one is a nice one. I just Googled it, as you can see, that this one is actually in the software development section where they talk about meetings. And as you can guess, meetings are going to occur pretty early and then lead to more work. So then they talk about design here, development, so that's the actual programming of it, and then testing. And so if you look, it will say January 9th, 16th, 23rd, 30th. So they're talking in terms of weeks here, which is essentially what we have to do in our own projects, right? Every week you're hopefully gonna work on these projects, and how much time are you gonna afford to them? Now this isn't going to necessarily say I'm going to do 80 hours this week and 20 hours this week. What this basically says is that it's going to take 2 weeks to get this done. Or it's going to take 4 weeks to get this done. Or it's going to just take 2 days to take this done. Or in this case, where you see this little diamond, that is what's referred to as a milestone. So in other words, hand in a report. That doesn't take a full day, right? That takes literally 15 minutes. Here you go. Here's my report. Thank you. Okay, less than 15 minutes. Something of that nature. In this one, it's done by a team, so you can see Mike Smith and Jennifer Jones and Sam Watson. They all have specific tasks. For you, you're the only person, so there's no need to do this. Now, why am I talking to you about Gantt charts? Well, because you have 2 assignments with Gantt charts. So if I were to go into our Moodle, you are going to see a Gantt chart assignment here and a Gantt chart assignment there. The first Gantt chart assignment, if we click into it, says make a Gantt chart for your project. This should predict everything you need to do for your project. I probably should have said to complete your project, but same gist essentially. And then I tell you to look at the Gantt Chart 2 assignment, because the Gantt Chart 2 assignment is what you actually do on it. So in other words, as the semester goes, you will say what you did on this and update this Gantt chart to show, well, I was going to work on functions this week, but it ended up being a different week. The first Gantt chart is when you predicted, the second one is when you actually did this. Because one of the jokes in the field is a lot of times they call this the Gantt chart, meaning that you predict everything and then things blow up and you never are able to do it. Now, does that make it not worth doing? No. One, because you should be able to figure out all the different tasks right away to make something work and be successful. That's one part of it. And the second part of it is that the more you do this, the more accurate you become. I remember I was working in the Navy and we did these, and when we did them, a lot of times it would take twice as long. So guess what we did? We made everything 2 times as long. Now, why did things take 2 times as long? Well, sometimes it was just a matter of, oh, I forgot, I'm taking a vacation this week. Or, oh, this guy's been out sick for a few days. Or, oh, this guy got pulled onto another project. It isn't necessarily that the original Gantt chart was wrong. It was more a function of was when were we reasonably or actually going to be able to get this work done. So we might have actually approximated the amount of man hours correctly, but we didn't allot the correct times or days to do it. Now, if I go back and actually let me get out of here and go into the student role so it looks a little bit more more like what you'd see. When you go down here in the course documents, and it's still not, let me go back to student again. When you go back to the course documents, you'll see right here a Gantt chart folder. Don't go into that folder. I used to have these inside the folder, but I think people weren't finding them for some reason, so I ended up just indenting them here. And you can go ahead and open any one of these 4 examples of Gantt charts and use them for your homework. So I'll pick up one. I've already downloaded them. Here we go. This is a little short. Remember, on the project, there were 16 different things that you had to do. I would suggest doing at least 16 rows for something like this. This works okay. You can plug things in real easy. It's not a real beautiful chart, but it has a start date and an end date. So in the case of rule study, you can actually put in a new date in here. Now this was in 2011. Hopefully they've changed this by now, but if I change this to 9/11, enter, see how that bar jumped and it moved over a little bit? This bar is actually wrong. So I would suggest maybe not avoid this one. I remember I've used these in the past and I've made them all work. So, but you kind of have to understand what to do. And in fact, I think this is it, because this has 2,000 days to complete. Really, you only want 17 days to complete if you're going out to the 28th, and then it will show up right. That's right, I forgot about this. So the end date, I think, is actually inconsequential. So this is nice and simple, actually, if you do want to use it. But let's take a look at a couple of the other ones. Whoa, this is a lot. This one I think I liked. The reason why I liked this is that they didn't actually have to plug in numbers. What you do is you just come in here, block some things off, and then drop a color in there. So, so then you can. It's, I guess, a little bit more just drawing essentially. And again, for this project, you can actually just draw it out. You can literally do a hand drawing. Now you're going to have to find a scanner and upload it to me, but that's okay if you really want to do it that way. But this one's kind of nice that way. So the easier way to do this is just kind of copy the formatting and just paint into here. That kind of works well as well if you want to extend it out. But this is kind of nice because it brackets off all the years and weeks, excuse me, the months and the weeks in there too. And I would not necessarily go down to the day level unless you think you need it. Probably the weekly level is fine. And remember, there's 16 weeks in this semester because we have a week off for spring break. But if you plan on working, if you plan on working on that spring break, go ahead and do it. This one works well, but you have to read the instructions first. It's a little mathy. This is probably my favorite of the bunch, but every time I've tried to show somebody this one, they get they kind of get confused a little bit and try and get frustrated with it. But this one I really like as in terms of doing it. As you can see, this one actually is in date format. So you can pinpoint down this. If you need some help with this one, if you're really set on wanting to use this one, I can help you out. Maybe I'll make a little video. But in the past, you'll either figure it out within 10 seconds, or you'll be scratching your head for hours with this one. Oops, that's the same one. Sorry, I want this guy. Okay, this one is nice and pretty. Look, 3D. Its data is on the next page. So in other words, another one from 2011. I really have to update these, but I'm hoping that one day Excel actually puts this in there. But the beauty of this one is it shows, if you want to do it for Gantt Chart 2 assignment, it kind of shows where you are, so how much you completed and how much is remaining left. Task 1, I'm going to say, let's say this, do a form sketch, because we learned form sketches early. And if I hit enter, then I go back to the Gantt chart, and there you go. See, there's where form sketch is. And the form sketch says it starts on the 6th, completed 15, remaining 10. Let's say we complete this on the 26th. And it is only the, I don't know, the 11th. So this would be 5 completed. And if we go back here, now all of a sudden you see this bar is shrinking down. You can use this in 2 ways. One, to actually show the percent you do have complete. Or just show the date, where the date is. So in other words, in this case, these lines might, if they all line up, it shows you what date you're on. But you might also want to say, well, I'm only 20% complete with this thing. So you have to do 20% would be what, 2, and then remaining would be 8. And that would kind of show how far you are. You're only about 2/10 of the way on it, even though maybe you're in day, 914 already. Okay, so any one of these Gantt charts you may use. If you want to go out and find your own, please do. I know MS Project used to have it. Again, if all 4 of these fluster you, go ahead and just hand draw this, but make it neat. And again, I'd love to see 16 or more columns. That's what's going to get you the really good grades. If it's just a three column one, or excuse me, a 3 row one, that's you probably aren't planning enough, because what are you doing in those 3 things? Planning, writing code, submitting. Well, I mean, how is that actually planning out? Here, you really want to think about how you're going to work through the semester on this project and just get little bits done. You don't have to kill yourself, but just get little bits done so that at the end, you can do all 16 of those things on the project. Because that's the problem actually with this project. It isn't the fact that it's too hard of a project. The problem is that people fall behind and leave out, 14, 12, and 3 or something like that. And so guess what? Well, 3 out of 16, that's a significant chunk off your grade, because that's roughly 10%. So you're starting off with a 90 at best. And now think about it, if you even miss more. If you miss half of those, you're starting off with a 50. That's not good. So make sure that you that's why I want you to plan this out so well, so you can get the full percentage and get a really good grade in this class. All right, we'll see you next time.